Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of PlayStation Pursuit. A little bit more of the stuff from last week added to the background, but as you can see, still pretty empty. But work in progress, folks. So this episode's games came from my recent vacation. I went down and visited my sister who lives in Charleston, South Carolina, and last time I was there was 2 years ago, and there were no retro game stores in the area. We went to Goodwill's, pawn stores, and unfortunately we got a few games there back in the day, but nothing great, no actual luck that you'd find at an actual game store. But, much to my chagrin, in about a year ago maybe, there was a store that opened up down just in like past North Charleston. So we set out to go there one of the days I was there, and sure enough I got some great PlayStation editions, and there was a couple other places I stopped along the way that had games as well. So I was very lucky for the PlayStation Pursuit on vacation. So stay tuned, I will show you what games I got this time. So on my way down to South Carolina, I actually made a pit stop the first day as I was driving down in North Carolina. And my nephew Tim and his wife Beth and their beautiful, cute, adorable, amazing daughter Lily was down there. And we visited them for a day. My mom and I went down. And while we were there, we stopped at, actually there was a store, or two stores down there that we went to. The first one I've been to in a South Carolina version of the store 2 years ago. And it is called Second and Charles. It's kind of like a used everything store. There's books, movies, music, and of course games. Even like action figures and comics and stuff too. It's a really cool store. If you have one anywhere near you, or if it's a short jaunt, or if you're traveling like I was and go through an area that has one, definitely check it out. You might find some really good deals. They do, price their stuff pretty accurately to online and everything, but there's always ways to find deals at whatever stores you go to. So I definitely think just for the variety of stuff that comes in, it's definitely worth checking out. You might find something that you don't see anywhere else. I didn't find anything crazy at that store. I just found a cheap copy of the original Dance Dance Revolution, which is pretty cool to have. I think there's 2, maybe 3 on the PS1. I know there's like a Disney one or something like that, but this is the original, so pretty cool to have that. And I gotta get the dance mat, of course, otherwise it wouldn't be true DDR. But pretty cool to find this there. I got actually a non-PlayStation 1 game there, Puzzle Quest for the PSP, which is one of my favorite games of all time. I love the original Puzzle Quest, and I always wanted it on the PSP, so you get the portability, but the audio quality, that would be better than the DS version, which is what I had previously. So I got that, but this was the PlayStation 1 game that I got there, so really cool to add that to the collection. Also, while I was in North Carolina, this was actually the second day before we left to go to South Carolina, there's a store that I went to 2 years ago, and it's called Save Point Video Games. Really cool store. It was great when I went there 2 years ago. Now, 2 years ago, believe it or not, there weren't many stores that did repro carts of like Super Nintendo games and stuff, and they were one of the first that like pioneered it. I remember it was like very new when they were doing it, and they did them right there, and even showed me like where he was putting together the carts and everything. So I always remember that place being really cool, and this was the first time I've been there in 2 years. So had to check out their PlayStation selection, and I got a good mix of common and uncommon stuff. 4 games actually that I got there, and it's a really cool store. If you ever go through there, it's like near Charlotte area of North Carolina. Really, really nice store. There's another Save Point somewhere else that's not in the same chain, I don't believe, but the one in North Carolina is the one that I'm referring to. So first game is a game that I used to have Greatest Hits, and I'll eventually get the Greatest Hits version, but I couldn't believe I still didn't have it to this day, considering I like a lot of the games in this series, especially in the PlayStation 1 era, and that is Final Fantasy Tactics. One of the best PlayStation 1 games in my opinion. Probably will talk about it as a PlayStation favorite in the future. But now I have it, so very glad to have it. I had the PSP one for a while, and that's kind of what slowed down my getting the original, but now I got to get it for the PS1 collection. So really cool to finally have that. And then these are some of the less common games. I mean, I see these sometimes, but one of them in particular I never see. And then the other two were just some uncommon, I almost call them uncommon commons. They're titles that you probably will see everywhere, but they're not the greatest hits. They're not the things you see at every store. The first one is I believe it was a budget game when it came out. It's called Baldies, and it's like a top-down, I think, strategy game where you control these bald humans. Looks weird, but it looks like it might be kind of fun too. So I've seen that. I think we had one in Syracuse, but this was super cheap. It was like $1 or $2. So wanted to pick that one up. Pretty cool. Now this is a game that I think I rented for the Sega Saturn back in the day, or I played it in a store demo. And this is the PlayStation version of the very same game, based on a movie that I have kind of fond memories of as a kid, but probably isn't that good of a movie. And that is Dragonheart Fire and Steel. What's cool about this game, though, is that it's a side-scroller with digitized graphics like Mortal Kombat style. So that's something that just isn't done anymore. But back in the day, it was like, ooh, it looks realistic, even though it was still sprite-based. I'd like to see somebody do an HD pre-rendered sprite-based game, something like a Donkey Kong Country or a Mortal Kombat, but with high-res sprites. So somebody, indie studio, get on that. Or if you want me to help you design that game, I'll be glad to do that too. But anyway, this game is that style, so it's probably clunky, junky game, but I always wanted to play it, and it's just another one down for the collection. So glad to check that one out. And then this is the one, and I didn't clean any of the stickers, as you probably noticed from a lot of these things, so there's still residue. But I'll read the name from what I can remember it is. It's Brahma Force, the Assault on Belt Logger 9. See, no wonder I couldn't remember it. But it's in fantastic shape, and it's just a really weird looking game that I've never played. I think it's a rail shooter or I don't think it's an FMV background shooter because it's only one disc, but interested to see what it is. It looks very mech / spaceship like. Pretty cool, but low resolution artwork. It's legit. It's not a reproduced manual or anything, but it's, if you look up close, you can see like JPEG artifact looking low resolution pixels. So, but anyway, pretty cool. Got that at Save Point. Very, very happy to have that. So cool games to the collection in North Carolina. Okay, so like I mentioned, I was very happy because being that there was no game stores in South Carolina my last time I was down there, so happy to find that there was one. Now, quick little story. Before I went to this game store, I did check out some of the pawn stores that I had some pretty good luck with last time I was down there. I got like Legend of Dragoon for PS1 2 years ago. I got Sky Gunner, which was a game I was really looking for a long time, an Atlas rail shooter for PS2, great game. But this time I went in and, you know, you can tell more people are picking through the games and stuff, but at the very top of their $5 game shelf, I saw Street Fighter Collection for PS1. And I was super excited because I don't have that yet for the collection. And I opened it up, and there was no manual, so I was like, all right, well, for $5, I'm still probably going to get it. But then I looked, and there was WWF Warzone on one side, and then when I opened the other side, there was like WCW Nitro. So somebody put wrestling games in the case of Street Fighter, or it wasn't Anniversary Collection, just Street Fighter Collection. And I was just like, one of the worst, most disappointing feelings ever. But anyway, that was all erased when I went to this next store. The store was called Starlight Gaming. And let me tell you, this is a great video game store. First of all, you have great service. I went in and this person was everybody working there was super nice and friendly. They actually brought out games from the back. They'll let me look through that were not out on the shelf yet. Just common PS1 games. But, you know, because I'm looking for high-end and low-end, just to fill in the collection, it was really cool that he actually brought out some of those games that, you know, maybe had cracked cases and stuff that he hadn't gone through or weren't ready to put out on the shelves. But he let me take a look at it, and that really was awesome. Right out the gate, like, what a way to make a nice impression at a new store, like to actually treat a new customer like that. I could not believe it. So thank you so much, man. Great job. And then I'll show you what I got from those piles. I got 2 common games that I didn't have. The first one is in a series that has probably like 20 games for the PS1. And I may have 1 or 2 already, but I didn't have this one. This is the first one, so I kind of wanted to get that out of the way. And that is Army Men 3D. And I know back in the day, these were kind of like these throwaway, another Army Man game, and like each review lost like a point in magazines because it was just like another one. But I think the concept's great. You know, Army Men toys that I guess kids nowadays don't grow up with, but a lot of us grew up with. You know, whether it was like our grandparents or myself when I was a kid, these were at dollar stores and toy stores and stuff, so I remember playing with these. And the idea of making a game that's a realistic war game with those Army Men soldiers, I always thought was cool. So glad to have that one out of the way. And that was the first game I got from Starlight in their common pile. And then I got the one game I was missing from the series, and that is Jet Moto 2. I had the first one and the third one, but never got 2 for some reason. I see it everywhere, but it's always like a few bucks more than I'm willing to pay, and I know online I could get it for cheaper. So the fact that I found it at the store for the price that I wanted to pay if I had gotten it online was really cool. So thank you so much, man. And then these two, one of them is one I've seen before and kind of wanted over the years, and the other one I never see. So in fact, I was like, I've never heard of that. So very cool to get both of these. The first one, and is in fantastic shape, is Fighter Maker. And I remember back in the day reading some reviews about this and how it's really technical and hard to do, but when you pull it off, you can make some really hilarious animations for your characters and poses and victory poses and everything. So really cool looking game. I'll have to take some time to learn it, but definitely want to see what I can make from it, and then maybe show some stuff on the PlayStation Pursuit. But I had RPG Maker back in the day, and that was one that I really liked that let you build your own game too. So excited to get this one, and it was a really good price, and like I said, mint condition. And it's not a 2-disc game, it's a 2-disc case, but it has the PlayStation logo on the inside there. So it's one of those kind of games, but great shape, awesome to find that there. Really happy to have that in the collection. And then the last game that I got there, because I had to get more stuff, the last game that I got there, like I said, it's so uncommon, I've never seen it. Has some stickers on the manual. The manual's a little beat up, and the case is kind of destroyed, but I can always change the case out, and the artwork and disc are in great shape. So that game is called The Hive, and as you can see, it's got a very unique cover art, and that's probably one of the things that made me go, whoa, never seen that before. Because if I see a game, I kind of remember what it looks like, and then I go, hey, I don't know what that one is, let me see what it is, and I look at it up close, and usually it's a game that's either worth a little more or is more uncommon, even if it's not worth more money. So that's kind of helped me out over the years, and just my collecting in general is knowing and memorizing what games look like. I just, even if it's a crappy game, if I've seen it, I remember it. So this game looks to me, I looked up some video too, looks like a rail shooter, but not the type like a Star Fox or something like that where you have a 3D thing moving through a 3D world. I think it's full motion video backgrounds, and you're shooting stuff in the video or maybe over top of the video, and that's what gives the illusion of you're moving around in 3D. And so that's why it's a 2-disc game, because it's probably a lot of FMV backgrounds for it, full motion video. But it looks kind of cool, and the fact that it's one that has been harder for me to track down that I got off the list right there, really awesome. Just it was like sweetening the deal of what I found at Starlight Gaming. But that was not where it ended. There was even more PlayStation related surprises at Starlight. First, I'm going to take a break, talk about some PlayStation favorites for this week. When I come back, I'll show you those last few things that I got from the store. So if you're anything like me, back in the 8 and 16-bit era, especially 16-bit era, I find there was so many fun platformers, or just mostly action-adventure platformer games based off of Disney licenses, especially those 90s revival of the Disney franchises, like, Little Mermaid, Lion King, Aladdin, that kind of rejuvenated Disney animation. Beauty and the Beast was another one, and there was games to go along with all of these Disney properties. So I loved the 16-bit era ones, and of course the 8-bit one were really great. I love Chip and Dale, DuckTales, all those for NES. But I really have a fondness in my heart for the 16-bit era ones. The Aladdin on both Super Nintendo and Genesis was great, and the Lion King game. And I wanted to talk about a couple games on the PlayStation that feel like natural evolutions of the Disney game of the 16-bit and 8-bit eras, because there's a lot of Disney games for the PS1, a lot of good ones. I might even talk about some more in the future, but these were two that I thought really stood out as being of the same style and quality of those games. So the first one we'll talk about is very familiar to me of the Lion King game and the way it plays. It's not as hard as that game, because that game kind of had its difficulty tuned to be a little harder back in the day, I think for rental purposes, so people would re-rent the game or keep it longer. This game is a little more forgiving, and it's a side scroller, but it also does a little bit of those 3D tricks that make it look so much more next gen back when it came out. And the game is Disney's Tarzan, which was a pretty good movie. I don't think it's as good as some of the classics before it, but still a good movie overall. And the game is very fun. Has really fast-paced levels, and one thing I thought they really did a good job of was emulating the sliding down the trees. Because if you've seen the Tarzan movie, or maybe you haven't, one of the things in the behind the scenes I remember back in the day is that they looked at skateboarders actually, and how they would, and maybe even rollerbladers too, and how they would like grind on rails and move. You know, you see people doing tricks in extreme sports. You know, the way they ride the rails and then come off at the end. They actually made Tarzan ride a lot of the branches and vines in that style, so the animation kind of like borrowed a lot from real life stuff, and they did a good job in the game of giving you opportunities to do stuff like that. And then of course it's got, you know, swinging from vines, which Tarzan is known for, and of course different animals that you have to fight and everything, and it feels like just a good old fashioned platformer in that regard. And that's one reason I really like this game. There's probably better platformers out there, but this one I thought was one of those ones that just really felt it continued that style of game, and that's why I picked this one. They had this on N64 too, I believe, and actually there's a really rare N64 variant that has a figure with it or something like that, I think, so if I'm remembering correctly. But the PS1 game is pretty much the same, it has CD quality audio, so and the graphics don't really suffer from being not on N64. I think they look really sharp on the PS1. So really cool game. Definitely check out that Disney game if you can. Now this next one is really cool. This game is another 2.5D game in that there's 3D backgrounds with the 2D sprite-based characters. I think Tarzan actually had the fully 3D characters, whereas this one kept with sprites. So this really has that bridge between 16-bit and 32. But it also reminds me of another great PlayStation game, and that is Klonoa, which is another perfect blend of sprites and 3D graphics. And this is Disney's Hercules. Another movie that I'd say I enjoyed, but isn't as good as some of the other Disney classics, but man, did they make a good game out of it. So, like I mentioned before, it has really nice 2D sprite-based graphics. You go through the levels, and a lot of times there's like some rotation and stuff to make it so you're not just moving left to right, you're kind of moving, and the backgrounds are kind of curving around as you're moving forward. One thing that this game did really good too is had really fun boss battles. I mean, when you get to the Hydra battle in this game, it really is awesome the way that it's still sprite-based enemies, but with a little bit of 3D tricks and everything like that. I think the Hydra might have had polygons to it, if I remember correctly. But you know, you fight big centaurs and other fun Greek mythological creatures, and they have just great graphics. It really looks awesome for the system. I think that, you know, by not going fully 3D all the way, they were able to make it look really sharp and didn't have too many of the like hang-ups of early 3D gaming with it. So another fun Disney game. Feels like it just continues the way those games in the 16-bit era felt. And you know, I'm sure the jump to fully 3D games is what kind of changed that feeling. And, you know, there's not too much you can do that because a 3D game does not feel like a 2D game. But by this and the Tarzan game having three-dimensional backgrounds and assets mixed in with the sprite-based graphics, it felt gameplay-wise similar to those games, but gave you that feeling of, wow, I'm playing on a new system with nice graphics and everything. So, really cool game. If you can track this down, which I think is pretty common, definitely check it out. It says Disney's Hercules on the side, and I think I've seen a variant with a different wording. I don't know if the branding changed or something. They had to say Walt Disney's or something. I feel like, maybe I'm misremembering, but I think there was another one. And I know there's Herc's Adventures, which I've talked about before, which doesn't play anything like, but sometimes when I used to be looking for Herc's Adventures, I'd see this one and be like, oh, but really shouldn't have sighed because they're both good games. So definitely check this out if you're looking for a fun Disney platformer. Okay, so continuing the fun Starlight gaming journey while I was in South Carolina. These are two things that aren't actual games, but one is really cool and I've never seen before, and then one I've definitely seen before and wanted, and now was the time to get it for a really good price thanks to Starlight Gaming. So the first thing I got is an action figure based off of a game that I've talked about on PlayStation Pursuit before. And again, if you haven't played that game, definitely check it out. The game is Omega Boost, and I couldn't believe it when I saw an officially licensed Omega Boost figure, and it's got the mech character that I believe is from the cover art of the game. And then it looks like there was two other characters, so maybe I'll track them down someday. Definitely not a priority, but for finding this for a good price at Starlight Gaming, what a cool thing to find for the PlayStation Pursuit. I thought this was just so cool. One of my favorite games. I love rail shooters, and being that it's a 3D rail shooter, really cool to find that at Starlight Gaming. What a cool thing. And you know what? They probably never found anybody to want to buy this thing, so I'm glad that I was able to give it a home, and I'm definitely happy to have it. Now this last thing, like I said, I've seen this before and wanted it, knew it existed, and I was very happy because it was in the box, and anything complete in the box is very, very good. I think I might be missing one piece of paraphernalia from the inside, like a manual or something, but it has a lot of the other inserts and even the plastic around the inserts. So very happy to get it. It is called the analog joystick, which is funny because the analog joystick, you know, is like a single stick on controllers ever since the N64, and then eventually the DualShock had analog sticks. But before those controllers were out, this flight stick, fight stick combo, this is kind of what it looks like, actually was called just the analog joystick. So pretty cool, and I'm not gonna take it out. Like I said, everything inside is in really good shape, but just so you can see from here, it does have 2 sticks. I think they intended for you to use this as a fight stick as well, but I will tell you right now, the way the analog stick is not a fast-paced, twitchy, it doesn't click or anything like that. It's very smooth. So this is better for like flight sims. I know there's like the Ace Combat, Air Combat series probably uses it. There's Descent, which I have in the long box form that I got from my buddy Jason Wells. I heard that plays amazing with this, so very glad to have it for that. And then there's a couple mech games, and then that Namco game Cyber Sled that I got recently that uses this controller as well. So it'll be fun to see what games are compatible with it and try it out. But he gave me a great deal, and the fact that it was in the box in fantastic shape was really, really cool. And in fact, I think this is going to go right up here. So we'll be able to see it in the PlayStation Pursuit episodes in the top corner from now on. So there it is. Really, really cool to get that. Again, I want to thank the guys at Starlight Gaming, and also just mention that the store helped me out with the PlayStation Pursuit, but there were a lot of games for various platforms. If you were looking to find some cool stuff, they had some good special editions in their case. They had a lot of variety of systems, and they didn't have a ton of games per system because I still could tell it's only been open like a year. But man, if this is the store after a year, I cannot wait to go back down and see how it is when I go back down next time. I guarantee you guys are still going to be in business because the service I got was great, and there was other people there enjoying themselves. You even had a little play area with a couple consoles hooked up for people to play. Somebody was playing Demon Souls in there, which I thought was so cool for PS3. So really, really cool store. I'm definitely going back. I want to go back now. That's how much of a good experience I had at the store. So definitely, if anyone watching this goes through or lives near Charleston, South Carolina, you have got to hunt down this store. Such a cool place. Guarantee you, you'll have a good time. Okay, so after these additions from my South Carolina and North Carolina trip, I'm now up to 530 games for the PS1. Really awesome, so happy to be there. And as you can see, I got a nice mix of games. So some really high-end ones, or not high-end, but highly coveted ones like Final Fantasy Tactics, and then some obscure ones that I've never seen or can't find. So awesome, awesome week. And of course, the good old analog joystick. Very, very happy to try that out. And I will definitely give a more in-depth review. Maybe I'll talk about some of the games that support it that I have in the collection in a future video. Definitely not a recent video because I want to get the collection built up. And then that's one thing you're going to see. As it gets harder for me to find PlayStation games, you're going to see me talking about more of the games in depth, not just some favorites, but series as a whole and themes throughout games and stuff. I'm really going to try to branch out a lot of that stuff. So if just seeing the pickups is getting a little stale, I just want to let you know I have some ideas for things to do. And if you have any suggestions, please put it in the comments, things you think would be cool to see with the PlayStation, or if you see a game on the shelf and you want me to talk about it, or if you have a favorite, do you have this? You know, if it's a game I don't have it, I'd love to talk about it after I got it, if it's been something talked about in the comments below. So thanks again for watching. Look forward to showing off games in the next episode, and once again, please like, subscribe, comment, view, and all that good stuff on both the YouTube video and the Facebook page if you can. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next episode.